Hey everyone, welcome back to the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every one of you that come back every week to listen, learn, and grow. And you know that I love introducing you to thinkers, leaders, people who can inspire you to change your daily habits and make shifts, small shifts that make big differences in your daily lives. Now, today I'm talking to a guest who's already been on the podcast before. He's a favorite here. I know you enjoy listening to him. And some of the videos that we've done together when I've been speaking on his platform and he's been here have gone absolutely viral. So I know you're excited for this one. I'm talking about the one and only Vishen Lakhiani. Now, Vishen created Mindvalley, one of the world's most powerful life transformation platforms that now has a following of 20 million people across 195 countries. And today we're talking about his brand new book called The 6-Phase Meditation Method. And for those of you who want to know how much I love and endorse this book and this human, I have a testimonial right on the back of the book. This book is a practice. It's not just a book that you'll read. It's not just a book that will sit on your shelf. It's a book that you'll actually implement that will shift the way you think about meditation and the way you think. Welcome to the podcast, Vishen Lakhiani. Vishen.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you
Such
for being
an honor
here,
to be back here. I love the new podcast setup. I love your new place. This is amazing.
Well,
I love seeing you grow and grow and grow.
Oh, well, it's such an honor because I've had so much fun with you at multiple Mindvalley events, whether we were in Italy, Sardinia, whether we were in LA, where we did so many events together. I mean, I think the community that you've cultivated at Mindvalley is so special.
Yeah.
And the people there are so special. And whenever I'm there, I feel so much love. I feel so much genuine sincerity to grow. And my community here loves you too on purpose.
And can I appreciate you for one thing? And many people don't know this about you, and maybe you don't know this about you as well. But when I first met you in 2018 in Sardinia, you were speaking at one of my events. I was not on Instagram. I was not on social media at all. I felt I was too old. I didn't know, I felt imposter syndrome. I felt I don't know anything. I felt I'm too old. And you were the person who convinced me to get on Instagram.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that. But before then, I used Instagram just to share. I used Instagram as a gratitude wall. I would share pictures of things I was grateful for, never for an audience. And you showed me that it was possible. My Instagram blew up. It's now like 800,000 people at Vishen. And now I use it to curate this community and to talk about my discoveries and personal growth. But you were the person who inspired me to get on.
Oh, thank you, man. I had no idea. That's beautiful. I'm happier for the world that you did get on. So
my first inspirational Instagram post happened 1 week after we spoke. And you don't even remember this, but we spoke over dinner.
Yeah, I remember. I've remembered all our meetings, but I think what you've done with Mindvalley, what you've done with your work has been incredible. Today, I want to dive into parts of this book, but I want to dive into it with your experience because I think everyone can remember or has a distinct memory of their first meditation experience. What was your first meditation experience ever? Do you remember it? Like the first time you were ever introduced to any form of meditation?
So the first time it happened to me, I was 14 years old. I was a young kid in Malaysia. And I decided to try a form of meditation that I learned from a book called The Silva Method, a really old 1960s, 1970s book. Back then, I was 14, so must have been like 1990. There was no internet in Malaysia. We had 4 television channels. So really, to pass the time by, all I did was I would browse all of the books on my father's bookshelf. And I discovered this book called The Silva Method. Now, the book captivated me because it spoke about how the mind can heal the body. What was happening to me back then is I was having a really horrible skin problem. My face was covered in acne. I had very little confidence. I considered myself ugly. I had difficulty making friends at school. You know, even if I liked a girl, I had no confidence to even talk to her. And so when I read in this book that the mind can heal the skin, I was game on. I want to figure this out. So I tried practicing. Nothing happened. I continued practicing. Nothing happened. And there was very little results. But I read and reread that book over and over and over and over again. Then I started picking other books from Bob Proctor, from Wayne Dyer. I started reading these books. It became a passion. And slowly, things began to click. And one day, applying the Silva Method, at this point I was 17 years old, things had finally started clicking. I began to understand it's not just about hoping and wanting your skin to heal. There was a process, there was a method, there was a psychology. When it clicked, in 5 weeks, I completely healed my skin. 5 years of skin disease healed in 5 weeks. Today, Science talk about this as a thing. It's called psychodermatology, how your mind influences your skin. But that was my first evidence that we can use our minds to influence our bodies. Now, the next thing I did was I decided to see, can I use my mind to accomplish a really big goal? For me, that was qualifying for the US Open Taekwondo Championships. Taekwondo is Korean karate. I was really into it. And I managed to qualify. My first ever trip to the United States, which was my dreamland. Since I was like a kid, I wanted to go to America. My first ever trip was to the US Open to represent my country. It was in Colorado Springs in 1993. My first time I fell in love with America, but it became because I visualized that in my mind. And that was my beginning, the beginning of my fascination with the human mind that would later lead to me starting Mind Valley and writing this book.
That's amazing. I love that story for so many reasons. Because, well, let me just break this down for everyone. You had an intention that was very clear. Even if it was to save your skin or to impress a girl or whatever it was, you were clear of why you wanted to meditate. The second thing was you were happy to read the book again and again and again.
And again and again.
And I think that takes a lot of resilience, because most of us, when we try something once and it doesn't work, we give up. And the third thing is, you didn't just test on something small. Once you saw a small result, you were like, well, does this apply to something bigger? And I think those three lessons in and of themselves are so powerful. What has changed in the benefits to you of meditation today? At that time, it was solving your skin. It was getting focused around the Taekwondo championships. How do you view meditation? Like, what is its use in your life today? Because I feel like so many people keep telling us to meditate, and there's so many benefits, but for you personally, what's the reason?
So I grew up in a Hindu family in Malaysia. Meditation was never what I was taught. The style of Hinduism I was taught was very dogmatic. You had prayers, you had chants, you had mantras, and I found it, oh God, so boring and irritating. I hated being dragged to temple to listen to a priest speak in Sanskrit, a language I didn't even understand. So when I was 19, I gave up Hinduism. I decided the religion was not for me. I read a quote by Gandhi that said, I'm a Hindu, and I'm a Muslim, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a Jew, and I'm a Buddhist. And I thought, that's it. I want to study and unite ideas from all of these different spiritual practices. And so that was my beginning. I got obsessed with spirituality. I started reading books by Esther Hicks, by Neale Donald Walsch, and I became particularly captivated by the spirituality that was emerging from the United States. From everyone, from Paramahansa Yogananda, who was an Indian who crossed over here, to Neale Donald Walsch, to especially Jose Silva. Now, a lot of them spoke about spirituality. What made Jose Silva's work different was that he broke it down into actionable steps. And that's what fascinated me most. So, a lot of people spoke about meditation, about sitting still, about going within. Jose Silva would teach the method. You're going to do this method to reduce your brainwave frequency to the alpha level. This method to get it down to the theta level. This method of positioning your eyes to activate alpha frequency in your brain. This method to reprogram your subconscious. This method to manifest a goal. This method to do healing. And that structured approach captivated me. Now, we call that active meditation. That's a word Jose Silva used. Osho used the same word, active meditation. This means it's different from passive meditation, which was more the meditation from Hinduism, from Eastern cultures, where you focus on your breath or you go within. And there's a usefulness in that. But what I loved about active meditation is, in the words of Jose Silva, you use it to solve problems. You do not push your problems away. You turn your problems into a project. You have skin disease, you're going to heal it. You need to achieve a business goal, you're going to make it happen. And you would apply different tools to solve these problems. Now, when I was in Silicon Valley, I applied the Silva method and it completely transformed my career. I was able to hold down 2 jobs. I got promotion after promotion after promotion. At the age of 26, I was vice president of a booming .com. And I was meditating using the Silva method and other practices I would combine with it. And one day, I certainly had a calling. I realized that meditation was the most powerful thing I'd learned in life. It was the reason why I was successful at my career. Yet, my university degree, for which I paid almost $250,000 for, taught me jack. It wasn't really helping me. So I decided I wanted to do something that could help the world. I decided to quit and become a meditation teacher. Now, as I started becoming a meditation teacher, as I started compiling all of these methods, I needed something for myself. And I look at meditation as a tool. Okay? So a lot of people say, all right, meditation is a form of self-awareness, of prayer. Yes, yes, yes. but meditation is also a tool. The point of meditation, in the words of the great teacher Emily Fletcher, is not to get good at meditation. It is to get good at life. And so I use two different types of tools. Now, let's think about our home. We have coffee makers and we have electric drills. We use a coffee maker every single day, or a tea kettle every single day, to put ourselves in a good state to start our morning. An electric drill is a power tool. You don't use it every day. You use it when you have a problem, when you have to drill a hole in a wall or threaten someone, I guess. So in meditation, the style that I teach, there are two types. You would use a power tool like the Silva method, which now sits on Mind Valley, for a really tactical problem. For example, healing, right? The Silva method has been proven by Dr. O. Carl Simonton as a very effective form of imagery therapy for accelerating healing. You're sick, you want to do it. If you are suddenly feeling like you have a migraine, you want to use it to help reduce your migraine. The 6 phase is what I developed as not the electric drill, but the coffee maker, something you use every single day. Even if your life is amazing, you use it every single day because it helps put you in a peak state for work, for happiness, for human connection. And it puts you in this beautiful state where it almost feels as if the universe has your back. Like you have, the Tinkerbell fairy following you around, blessing everything you do and making your life magical. This is how I view meditation. It's an active approach to tackle the most complex problems in life, but also as a daily approach to put you in peak states of humanness.
This is why I love talking to you, because I love that explanation. And I think that breakdown of how meditation can be used differently for different challenges is fantastic. And I love the analogy with the tea kettle we'll go with and the drill, because I do think you're right that we've made meditation, what you just said, is about becoming good at meditation, which is absolutely irrelevant to life. And with the 6 phase method, what I love about it is that you have the same thing that you loved about how the Silva method taught it. You've figured out your own method that people can take. Now, in this book, when you talk about, this is where I want to get into some of this, and everyone who's watching and listening back at home or wherever you are, I'm only going to be giving you a tip of the iceberg, but I want to give you this insight because my hope and goal and intention is that you will go and order the book right now while we're having this conversation to really dive deep into it. But I want to give you just enough to recognize how practical it is. So you talk about how we need to start with the circle of love and compassion. When I hear the word compassion, and I think when a lot of people do, compassion feels like a tall order, because I feel like it's been removed. I think before compassion, we think of criticism, we think of complaining, we think of comparing. Like those are more natural thoughts. Can you talk to me about how you had this epiphany that compassion was a beginning, when often our beginning place is criticism, complaining, or comparison?
So compassion is not something you do for other people. That's a great side effect. Compassion is something you do for yourself. It changes the way you function and show up in the world. So there's a lot of science right now on compassion practices that derive from Zen Roshi Buddhism or even from the HeartMath Institute. For example, the HeartMath Institute found that if you just close your eyes and you see the face of someone you love, you see their eyes, you see their nose, you feel that love for them, you feel it in your heart area, it changes your heart resonance. And your heart resonance is a biomarker of health. In short, giving love to someone else instantly, physiologically changes the heartbeat that you're having and puts it in a better state that shows that your body is in a healthy mode. Heart resonance correlates with health. And I found this fascinating. That is how we start the 6th phase. Then we move to a more advanced compassion practice where we extend love across the world. We start with our family, our neighborhood, our city, our country, and then globally. Now, why is this important? Compassion is like a muscle. You can train it. And when you train it, you become more loving. If you think about all the great saints and sages and mystic, compassion and love was a key part of who they are. Whether it's Yogananda or Jesus, it was compassion and love. But this is how it shows up in your world, right? So I remember after the pandemic, I went for breakfast with a friend. All the restaurants had been closed for 3 months. And finally, That weekend, everything opens. And so we are waiting in line for around 20, 40 minutes to get in. Finally, we get in. It's really busy, so they can only seat us at the bar. And all I'm craving is coffee, eggs, and a side of avocado. So I order my coffee, and 20 minutes later, the waitress hasn't brought the coffee. The waitress is scurrying around. There's a lot of people over there. She's wearing a mask. And she left the coffee on the bar, and I can see it. And it's 20 minutes, I can't get her attention. Finally, she brings me the coffee, just puts it down, doesn't even say anything, and it's gone cold. So I have to order another coffee. That other coffee comes 10 minutes later. Then my omelet comes 40 minutes later. They forgot the avocado. And all of this chaos. Now, at the end of that, as I was tipping the waitress, I still had a smile on my face, and I gave a tip worth 50% of the entire bill. So my friend looked at me and goes, "What are you doing? Like, the service here was horrible. She doesn't deserve 50%. And I said, "Really? Well, I thought she did." And I explained it to my friend yesterday. I said, "Look, it's all how we see it. To me, I'm just happy to be here, to be able to eat outdoors again. It doesn't matter we had to wait 20 minutes in line. It was just nice being able to step into a restaurant after 3 months. That waitress, she's been running around with a mask on herself for, maybe 12 hours. Look at the line. She's not even getting a break. And probably for the last 3 months, she didn't have a job. She was probably worried about how to put food on the table. And that's why I gave her a 50% tip. I don't care if my coffee was cold or my avocado came late. That didn't even register for me. Rather, I was in a state of appreciation, of love, of awe at the humanity around me, even if it was a little bit messy. Compassion had put me in that zone. When you see someone else, even if it seems like what they did is wrong to you, you look at them with a sense of empathy, with a sense of understanding. And it is that understanding that changes and reframes your definition of the world. So I'm not saying do compassion so you become a better tipper. I'm saying do compassion because the world becomes a more beautiful, alive, connected place. And your life becomes more peaceful. Now, the side effect is everyone you come in contact with, you bring happiness into their lives. And the world needs that today.
What I love about that example is that it shows something in a personal way that we all experience. And it's so fascinating because I've been experimenting with something similar in a professional setting. So a lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, you can do that with a waiter or waitress at a store, but then what about someone in your workplace?" And I realized that if you go hard on people, and people experience this, I think we've all had experiences of it. We've all had bosses who were hard on us. And I found that when my bosses were hard with me, it closed me off. It didn't open me up. Whereas if someone checked in with me and said, "Hey Jay, you look like you're struggling a bit. Is everything okay at home? Like, is your family okay? Like, how are things going? You don't have to tell me, but if you feel like telling me, let me know." That allowed me to have a safe space and want to deliver more for that person, as opposed to if that person came up to me and goes, "I'm not really happy with your performance right now." Like, hearing that from someone didn't open someone up. And so even your same approach in a professional setting still works and applies. That when you approach someone or someone approaches you and just says, "Hey, I can tell that you're dealing with a few issues or something must be going on. Do you feel like telling me?" I think that compassion is such a superpower and it's so underestimated. Where did we lose that? Where did we go wrong?
I think we underestimate it because for the longest time in society, we thought kindness is associated with weakness, strength, power. Even to put power over someone else was a sign of strength. But today we know that's not true. There was a Gallup study done on 10 million employees. And they found that the employees who loved their jobs more, who were most engaged, who were most productive, who had one of the highest correlations with revenue growth, answered yes to the following question: my supervisor or someone at work cared about me as a person.
Wow.
And that's compassion. Now, I remember a funny story about
yeah,
you, Jay.
Please.
So I remember.
About me?
Yeah.
Oh.
That shows how compassionate you are. So I want to share this with the audience. We were having dinner at Mind Valley's festival, A-Fest. This was that festival in Ibiza. And you disappeared to use the restroom.
Oh, yeah.
And then we never saw you for 2 hours. So imagine you're having dinner with someone. There are about 6 people in the dinner table. And that person goes, "I have to go use the restroom." 2 hours later, he hasn't come back. And so you're thinking, gosh, what a jerk. If he was bored by my company, he should have just said, Vishen, I'm going to go to sleep. He had to make that restroom excuse. And so I was mildly annoyed by you. And then I realized what happened. Jay went to use the restroom. And as you were coming out of the restroom, one by one, people were coming out to take photos with you or ask you for advice. And you stood there for almost 2 hours, talking to everyone, taking photos, giving them the advice they needed. And then you were so tired, you went to sleep. That's compassion. And see, you may have done that almost just organically, but I never forget that. And that put you at hero status in my mind.
No, well, I honestly have to say it's because you attract the best people. Like the culture and community of the quality of individual that comes to Mind Valley events is really special. And, you know, I know so many A-festers in my personal life as well, like Irvin, who's one of my closest friends, Irvin Valencia E. And it's like, he's been an I think he's like, I don't know how many A-fests he's been to, maybe like 9 or something. I don't know. He's been to a lot.
Yeah, I think he's the health director for the New York Knicks.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's the director of training and conditioning at the Knicks. And it's just like, he's the embodiment of everything we're talking about in a beautiful way. And I think I did that because of the quality of the people you attract. But I appreciate you remembering these things. Obviously, meditation gives you a good memory too.
So I say that because compassion today, kindness is the ultimate flex.
Yeah.
I remember 15 years ago, when people wanted to sell you stuff on the internet, do this to make money, do this to build a business, they would post with their Lamborghini or their car. Today, nobody gives a damn. Today, the stuff that we share on Instagram are very often inspirational stories, people doing kind acts, people saving animals, people doing great things for kids. Compassion is the flex in today's society.
What is the difference between a technique and a pure intention, in the sense of, we know each other well, and I know that you've meditated for God knows how many years now, and I know how much study you've done and how many incredible people use this method, like so many celebrities and athletes use this method. What have you found to be the difference between someone who uses compassion as a technique to get what they want or to present themselves a certain way versus what is the difference in result and practice in someone who's doing it from a pure place? I'm just fascinated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So the technique is not compassion. The technique is the circle of compassion, which is the specific exercise we do, inspired by Zen Roshi Buddhism and the HeartMath Institute, to expand and open your heart. Right? So that is the technique. The compassion itself is a quality of being. So the 6 phase is 6 specific techniques that layer on top of each other that open up 6 different aspects of your being, which I believe are really important for you to show up in the world, not just as a good human being, but to crush it at work, to hit your goals, to get things done, and to do it from this state of just absolute bliss and equanimity.
The point is you're making is that you can't even use compassion for lower means or lower requirements because that's
fake,
not compassion.
That's fake kindness, right?
Correct,
You're doing something to get something.
Yeah.
But the technique that we are doing actually trains your brain to understand how deeply connected you are. If you do this, you automatically become nicer.
So yeah, you're talking about the actual change in consciousness and like transforming your character as opposed to like what we're saying, like I'm talking... About marketing versus meaning,
Yeah.
like the idea of like,
Right.
oh, I can market this stuff versus this actually makes sense. There was one thing specific I wanted to ask you. You talk about happiness and gratitude. I wanted to ask you your take on, after all these years, you've helped so many teachers share their work. You've helped so many, like that's one of the most special things about you that I appreciate about you is that you're not just presenting what you know, you're supporting the work of so many other incredible people. And you've supported mine too. You know, you've supported me too in such a deep and beautiful way. And what I'm intrigued by though is out of all the reading you've done, all the studying you've done, what is happiness? Is happiness in your eyes still a goal? Is it a pursuit? Is it a byproduct? What is happiness? Because I feel like we still don't know. We still hear people talking about, I just want to be happy. Well, my goal is to be happy. What's Vishen's take on that?
So happiness is not the goal at all. In fact, happiness is not even what we care about. What we're looking at is a concept called blisscipline. Blisscipline is not being happy. It's not forcing yourself to be happy. Look, I am a person who can be prone to depression. It's actually in my DNA.
Wow, I had no
right?
idea. Yeah.
You can measure these things now with DNA. And I've been in depression in my life. I'm also a person who is prone to melancholy. Melancholy is typically it happens when it's raining. I want to sit by the fire, listen to sad music, and just be by myself. And I like that. I'm not happy. Neither am I sad or depressed. I'm just melancholy. And it's a beautiful feeling. And we all feel that sometimes. If you've ever seen the Pixar movie Inside Out, it shows that sadness can be a superpower. You can be sad when you miss someone. You can be sad when you're grieving. There's a beautiful quote from the Disney show WandaVision. What is grief but love persisting? The goal isn't to push away sadness. Rather, the goal is to remember this. When we are showing up with people, when we are showing up at work, the thing that matters is the concept of blisscipline. And that is having the discipline to ensure that you are